Hello, hello. Today we're going to be talking about some of the major battles and events that occur during the Civil War. Very interesting. Once the Confederate States of America secede from the Union to create their own country, and the Civil War officially starts when the Union tries to hold on to Fort Sumter. We know, like we talked about last week, the Confederate States of America, they are going to attack Fort Sumter in South Carolina because South Carolina was one of those states that seceded the Union. The Confederate States of America were not okay with the Union continuing to control a fort that's located right off the coast of South Carolina. So the Confederate States of America, they organized their army. They launch a large-scale attack on Fort Sumter. And after a short time, the Union will surrender Fort Sumter to the Confederate States of America. And a lot of battles will follow the Confederate victory at Fort Sumter. And the majority of the fighting throughout the Civil War is going to take place in the South. So the Confederate capital is actually going to change 3 times throughout its history. It's going to originally begin in Montgomery, Alabama. Then it's going to get moved to Richmond, VA. And once Richmond, VA falls during the Civil War, it gets moved to Danville, Virginia. And we know the Confederate president is President Jefferson Davis. And he's going to be president of the Confederate States of America during the Civil War that lasts from 1861 to 1865. And like I said, just a quick review on the attack of Fort Sumter. That's the attack that starts the Civil War. All right, so the Union, or all these northern states, they're going to aim to hang on to Fort Sumter. The Confederate States that seceded to form the Confederate States of America, they're not okay with the Union continuing to hold on to a fort located in South Carolina. So they launch an attack, and it's going to be a major Confederate win. But like we talked about last week, there aren't going to be any casualties, just a bombardment of the fort by Confederate cannons until the Union troops who were stationed at the fort decided to surrender it over to the Confederate States of America. So quick, easy win for the Confederacy. And then you see some pictures of the fort in ruins. So like I was saying last week, what happens is the Confederate, they organize their bombardment of Fort Sumter from all sides until until the Union surrenders. And Robert E. Lee is going to be named the Confederate general during the Civil War. He is first going to be asked by President Abraham Lincoln to be the leading commander of the Union Army because he's widely considered as the best general in America in the 1860s. Okay, he was a veteran of the Mexican-American War. He studied at West Point, where a lot of the Civil War generals studied. And he's going to be actually opposed to secession. So he was opposed to the Confederate States of America breaking off from the Union and forming their own country. He also didn't have, strong beliefs in slavery. But he is not going to want to join the Union and fight against his home state of Virginia. Okay, he said he couldn't fight against his home state of Virginia, and he's going to become the leader of the Army of Northern Virginia. So he turns down Abraham Lincoln's offer to be the leading general of the Union forces during the Civil War. And after the war is over, he's going to urge all the Southerners to accept defeat and really reunite as Americans after the Civil War is over. He didn't want anybody in the South raising their sons and daughters to want to separate from the United States again, or he didn't want anyone from the South to hold any grudges against the Northerners. for beating them during the Civil War. He just wanted everybody to reunite and work together to rebuild the country after the Civil War is over. So in the eyes of a lot of historians, Robert E. Lee is sending a good message at the end of the Civil War, after he, of course, loses. So let's talk a little bit about a local battle here, the Battle of Manassas. It occurs right in Bull Run, VA, and it's going to be the first large-scale battle of the Civil War where both sides have organized their armies, they mobilized their armies, and it's going to be a Confederate win. Okay, so very significant during this battle. A very skilled Confederate general by the name of Thomas Stonewall Jackson executes his military strategy. He's considered to be one of the very skilled strategists involved in the Civil War, and he's able to execute his strategy and hold his position on the high ground in the Manassas area. And there's where this famous quote comes from: "There stands Jackson like a stone wall," okay, because the Union forces did not have a lot of success during this war. This battle. Yeah. And in the war, at the start of the Civil War, so the Union are actually going to lose a lot of battles at the start of the Civil War, especially that first major one, the Battle of Bull Run. Abraham Lincoln, he's going to be the President of the United States of America, like we talked about last week during the Civil War. And we know that he opposed the spread of slavery. He's going to want to preserve the Union by force if necessary. So he's the one that ultimately orders the Union to organize its military to attack the Confederate States of America, to try to readmit them. So his first goal when he's elected is to hold the country together. Second goal, he wants to eventually phase out the practice of slavery in the United States. And ultimately, during the Civil War, Lincoln is going to be the one to issue the Emancipation Proclamation, which makes it illegal to practice slavery in all parts of the United States. So even those border states now lose the right to practice slavery once Abraham Lincoln issues the Emancipation Proclamation. So he will be the president to ultimately ban the practice of slavery in the United States, or make the practice of slavery illegal in the United States. So the Emancipation Proclamation is a famous speech given by President Abraham Lincoln, and what it does is what we just said it does. It frees the slaves, and that after the Emancipation Proclamation, the freeing of all the slaves in the United States becomes the new focus of the war. Okay, so when this war first breaks out, the United States, or the Union, is just trying to regain control of all the southern states that seceded. Okay, once Abraham Lincoln issues the Emancipation Proclamation, that's going to be when the Union is fighting to abolish slavery in the United States. Okay, so there's a new focus of the war. And many of the freed slaves are going to join the Union Army. Okay. So a little bit more on Lincoln. He's going to believe the United States was one nation, not a collection of independent states. He's going to write the Gettysburg Address, which said the Civil War was fought to preserve a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Okay, so he's trying to regain control of all of the United States, okay, and make it for the people and by the people, okay, for all people, right, especially those former slaves. That's what Lincoln's trying to do. And there is an image or drawing of him, or photo of him after he gives the Gettysburg Address. Let's talk about Ulysses S. Grant. So Ulysses S. Grant is going to become the leading commanding general of the Union Army during the Civil War. And he's the one that's ultimately going to lead the Union to victory. Frederick Douglass, we've already talked a lot about him. He's going to fight for the rights of African Americans, okay, to increase their opportunities to receive a fair education, to obviously be free, and he's going to be a big-time abolitionist, going to be a very influential member of the abolitionist movement. He convinces a lot of people to join the movement. And he's also going to advocate for the rights of women and African Americans to be able to vote in United States elections. And we know he's a former slave who escaped to the North. And that'll be it for our discussion today. So a nice, short, and sweet one. I will see you next time, and enjoy your winter break.